Today we have Dr. Stephanie Smith, the Chief Veterinary Officer for the government of Saskatchewan, and she's here today to talk to us about the avian flu that has been spreading not only in Saskatchewan, but across the entirety of Canada. And so thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Smith.
Thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
And so tell us about the avian flu and how it kind of spreads between flocks and just what's been happening so far in Saskatchewan.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So we've had 2 detections of avian influenza in 2 flocks in Saskatchewan. We've had one in a backyard flock, and we've also had one in a commercial flock. Before that, we also reported that we had a positive detection in wildlife. We can also confirm that we've had multiple detections, in wildlife going forward. That's been pretty consistent with other provinces. As we know, other provinces in Canada have been dealing with the disease in wildlife, backyard flocks, and commercial poultry as well.
And what measures is the Saskatchewan government taking in order to stop the spread of avian influenza?
So in the case of avian influenza, this is a federally reportable disease, which means that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, or CFIA, is the lead response authority when there is a detection. So in this case, CFIA takes measures to place controls and attend on site and determine what actions are necessary. In terms of the provincial responsibilities, we are here to provide support to CFIA as well as to the poultry industry, and ensure that we're addressing any of their needs and concerns and doing our due diligence to mitigate the spread of disease. One step that we have taken is to implement an animal health control area order for the province of Saskatchewan. That is an order that prohibits the commingling of poultry from multiple sites. So things like poultry sales and shows, events where poultry are being brought to, that is what we're prohibiting at this time, so that we try to reduce the risk of disease spread.
So what should poultry producers and owners do in order to stop the spread of avian influenza and make sure it doesn't get into their flocks?
The best action is to take preventative measures. That really is the best answer here. There is no treatment or vaccine to cure avian influenza, so the best is to keep it out of your flocks. So we're asking producers and poultry owners to consider implementing biosecurity measures to try and keep the virus out. Those are things like keeping your barn doors locked, preventing visitors from coming in at this time. Again, trying to minimize those risks of bringing in the virus, using barn-specific clothing and footwear to keep the virus out. If at all possible, preventing contact with wild birds so that we don't have that risk of disease spread. And of course, monitoring your flocks closely and reporting any concerns for illness.
And what are the general risks for humans contracting avian influenza for producers and for the common person who isn't really around poultry that often?
So in terms of avian influenza, there is a low risk for spread to humans. We can become infected with the virus. However, it is very rare. We've only rarely seen detections of avian influenza impacting people. The highest risk within that category would be for people that are in constant contact with birds that are infected. So producers that may own poultry or people that have pet birds that are in direct contact, those are where the higher risk would be. So we would simply just indicate for folks that have concerns about that nature, contact with your healthcare professional if you have any concerns. Again, risk is low, but you do want to do your due diligence and do report any concerns if you have a concern that you may have avian influenza in your flocks.
Thank you so much for the interview, Dr. Smith, and all of the information.